Tennis is not about winning. And get this, tennis, speaking Spanish with a stranger, and trying to pick somebody up at a bar are all the same thing. And once you understand this deep first principle, then you will start to approach and see the game of tennis entirely differently. And when you start approaching the game this way, you find that it is much simpler, much easier, and much more streamlined than trying to piece together 20,000 different teaching methods or ways to improve your game. So what is this fundamental thing that all of these share? And by the way, it's beyond just these. I just like to point these out because they seem so different. Well, at the core, all of these are just a system of interaction. So what does that mean? It's where you have all these different parts and they are having action, this change in between them. That is what interaction means. Action between. Every system of interaction has an environment, things in the environment, rules of the environment, and a mechanism of interaction. And your things in the environment can break down to agents, these things that have their own internal driven goals, targets, these things that these agents are going after, and these instruments, these things of precise, refined use for your mechanism of interaction, and your bystanders, these other entities, these people, these things that are in your system of interaction. So a system of interaction, every system of interaction has an environment, okay? So in tennis, the environment is your tennis court and the tennis net. In Spanish-speaking environment, let's say it's at the shop. So that's going to literally be the shop, all right? With the cash register area and the aisles where the food is, okay? And then for dating at a bar, it is going to be the bar, all right? So it's going to be the dance floor area, it's going to be the outside area, it's going to be maybe where they have a sporting activity, it's going to be the bar area, all right? So once you have your environment, okay, well, it's empty. So you need to put things in the environment. These are called your entities. So in tennis, your entities are your players, your rackets, and the ball. And in a Spanish-speaking environment, your entities are going to be those things in it. So it's going to be the items for sale, it's going to be the cash register, it's going to be the two people, okay? And in a dating environment, it's going to be the bartender, it's going to be the patron, it's going to be the DJ, it's going to be the bouncer, all right? So these are your things in the environment. Oh yeah, and also in the dating one, you're going to have your drinks, okay? Now, once you have your things in the environment, well, we don't have any way for them to do anything yet because we don't have any rules. So the next part of the system of interaction is that all of these have rules. In tennis, it's very straightforward. The rules are in the rule book, okay? In Spanish, it's going to be the rules of the Spanish language and also the culture you're in for this country that you're speaking this Spanish in. And you're also going to have in this dating environment, you know, they open the bar at like let's say 8 p.m. They close the bar at 2:30 a.m. You can't stay here. You know, you don't have to go home though. You know, hey, don't get too drunk or whatever. And that introduces the fact that there's also unwritten rules, right? It doesn't say anywhere you can't get too drunk. It's like an unknown it's a known rule that's not stated, right? Same with like how you approach people. It's also an unstated rule, how you interact. The Spanish one, you know, this one is interesting because the cultural rules are unwritten rules, but they are there nevertheless, okay? How do you, use your face to kind of speak for you, your hands. How do they go about things? In some countries, doing a waving or a fist pump or shaking their hand, it's not viewed the same as it is in the US or Western world. And in tennis, a great example of an unwritten rule is the gentleman game, right? You're supposed to be polite. If you hit a net cord, you're supposed to say sorry. If you're, like John McEnroe, he knows the unwritten rules, right? Because he's like, you cannot be serious, okay? So he's got these rules for himself too. So you have these unwritten rules in this systems of interactions too. But regardless, you still have rules. That's the big takeaway there. So now you've got your environment, the tennis court, the net. You've got your things in the environment, your tennis players, your rackets, and your ball. Well, now you've got your rules. You got the tennis rule book. So what comes next? Well, we got to interact. So we have to have a mechanism of interaction. And in tennis, that's going to be literally swinging the racket, right? That is literally how we interact in tennis. We swing the racket. In a Spanish-speaking environment, that's going to be us talking out loud, using words, and using our body language, right? Italians very much with the body language they can speak. And in the dating at the bar scene example, it's going to be using, also like body language and talking, and it's a physical touch and the dancing. These are all our mechanisms of interaction, right? Buying the drink. Okay, you'll notice here that some systems of interaction are more complex than other systems of interaction. So tennis is a great one because with tennis, it can be seen because it's a little bit more simple. It's more straightforward. So that's why I like tennis as a great example of this, and why it's so powerful for us. So once we understand that we have an environment, we have things in the environment, we have rules of the environment, right? These rules of the game, and you'll start to realize all of these are just games. And then we have our mechanism of interaction of this system of interaction, okay? By the way, this is all from my book, The First Principles of Tennis, which you can get on my website, ethosschoolofttennis.com, and it will come with a video, it'll come with the audio and the book itself, and it shows you how using these same first principles, you can effectively and efficiently master the game of tennis way faster rather than wasting years of inefficient repetitions, because you'll actually have the right starting point and the correct way to view tennis. It's going to go over 14 different analytical lenses that are all leverage points to view the game by. It'll give you the exact progression of, based on the first principles, the exact progression of why you go from technique to athleticism to intellect to reading, which you've probably never heard about in your life. I never did after playing the game for 20 years. And then it will show you why the greatest tennis player in the history of tennis ever will be one that's not one that has any style. They will be a non-stylistic player, and they will actually be a chaotic player. You will never be able to know what they're doing next. And so the book shows why. And I actually think it's funny because Alcaraz and Sinner played in the US Open. Alcaraz won, and Sinner literally said, I have to be more unpredictable. And I'd already written the book at this point, so I thought, wow, that's pretty cool that the guy basically kind of confirmed what the first principles investigation shows. So now we can break it down a little bit more, and that's where it really gets amazing. So the things in the environment, our entities, well, when we have this thing called an agent-based system of interaction, right? This agent model, we can actually break down our entities a bit more. So an agent, someone with agency just has the ability to take action. So an agent would be like the humans involved. If you had machines playing, it'd be the machines. So like chess, you have the machines, they're the agents. And you have, in dating, it's the people again. And in the dating scene, or the Spanish scene, it's the people. Those are the agents, the actors, the people that have their own inner goals, right? They have their own inner goals that they have as their directive, all right? For maybe the opponent and you, both of your goals might be to win, but I'll show you in a second that it's actually not about that. And your Spanish speaking, these people's goals might be to get the message across as effectively as they can so the person can understand. And then in dating, their goal might be to have a lot of fun. It might be to go home with somebody. It might be to impress somebody else and make other people jealous so they can look like they're high status. So people have these inner goals. Those are the agents. Then the agents, well, they have a target. So in tennis, our target is the ball, okay? We're trying to hit the ball, all right, with our mechanism of interaction. Our tennis swing is trying to hit the ball. And in this Spanish speaking, the target might be to the other person's brain, right, to try to get them to understand, all right? That's the target there. And then, and by the way, that's really important to think about because it shows, hey, you don't have to necessarily use your words, you can use your body language, right? And then we have the dating one, the same thing is similar to the Spanish, right? We have the target, okay? So then, once we have our agents and we have our targets, well, we have this thing called an instrument, okay? Now, in tennis, our instrument is the tennis racket, okay? That's our thing here. And the thing to point out is that instrument is different than a tool. Okay, instrument implies precision, it implies mastery, and this is really key to understand, because when you understand that it's an instrument, it means you need to master your capacity to use the racket as your mechanism of interaction. Okay, and this is where so many people decide to skip this. They decide that they don't need to master the racket. Okay, they don't need to master their mind. They don't need to master these other things, and they think that's okay. But if you truly want to be the one that runs the game in this system of interaction, you need to master your instrument. So in dating, they have these pickup artists. These people have mastered the instrument of knowing the psychology of humans. They've mastered their words and how they refine it. They literally have the perfect lines that they will come up with. In Spanish, it'll be mastery of the way you do the dialect, where somebody sounds like a natural speaker, the other person doesn't sound like a natural speaker. And you have this concept of mastery, this instrument, refined precision, okay? And then you have your last breakdown of the things in the environment. That's the bystanders. So these bystanders are the people that are watching you play the game, right? These are the other people that are in the environment that aren't necessarily in the kind of like interacting amongst, but they kind of can be, because think about it. You have these bystanders, these crowd, but they can cheer really loudly for one player and not cheer for the other player. So then it can begin to affect one guy and not the other guy. In the case of Djokovic, when he's getting cheered against, it actually fuels him. So he actually realized that, and he started to use that, right? He made that, mastered that instrument right there. He's mastering his system of interaction, really is what's going on. In the dating scene, you're talking with the girl or the guy in front of you, and all the people around you, these are the bystanders, right? The bouncer might be the bystander as well, or the bartender will be the bystander between these agents that are talking right now. So this is what we break down a system of interaction, and once you break it down, you actually get to a really powerful place, because now you realize you can see the entire game in front of you. You can see every single piece. And so when you can see every piece, now you know what's going on. Now you know how to progress all the way through. So in tennis, we have the rules of the game. And in the rules of the game, at rule number 17, it says how to lose a point. Well, it never says how to win a point. And this is really important, because if it says how to lose a point but not how to win a point, that means tennis is not about winning. Tennis is about making your opponent fail before you fail. So tennis is about making your opponent fail before you fail. With that in mind, now the directive of how you improve and what you need to do becomes so clear. You need to be really effective at making them lose. You need to make them lose now, okay? But if you're trying to make sure that they fail before you fail, you need to be making sure that your life bar doesn't go to 0 before their life bar does. So you need to be efficient. So you need to be effective and efficient as much as possible. And then this is so amazing, because this tells us exactly how we need to approach the tennis game. If our way of interacting in the tennis world is our swing, then we need to have the most efficient and most effective swing possible. All right? That's the first bottleneck. That is the first bottleneck that we have to accomplish. Create the most efficient and most effective swing possible. And now that we understand that question, we have to ask, well, what does the most efficient and most effective swing look like? The one that gives me the most power, most spin, most speed, most placement, most disguise, while being like as if we're not even trying, as if it's effortless. And so this is an amazing unlock, because now you understand if somebody's telling you something that's based on a true first principles of this game. And I'm not talking like, this is why it's important to like bring in Spanish, bring in the dating, right? Because if you understand that this is universal, not just something derived like only specifically to tennis, you realize, oh, now I have a clear picture of what's actually going on here. I'm not just getting some random piece of advice that guy just like synthesized out of nowhere. Now we can apply it to Spanish too. If we realize that it's about delivering the most efficient and most effective way to communicate to someone the message, you realize, hey, wait a minute, no wonder this person that's mastered the instrument of talking in Spanish only has to say like 1 or 2 words. Sometimes they don't even have to talk. In India, they just move their head, and now they've communicated 50,000 words to the other person. They don't even have to talk, right? They just finished the whole interaction right there. They're extremely efficient and effective. Okay, so this is really an amazing unlock. Same thing with like people that are dating. With dating, people that take 2 hours to try to, get someone to get interested in them versus somebody that takes 30 seconds or like 0 seconds because they realize that they can dress a certain way. They can already be a person of a certain kind that the other person is already instantly attracted to, and that it's like they're not even trying. So that's the same concept here, right? Most efficient and most effective. So I just hope that you understand this. Now, I go more into depth on this in my tennis book, First Principles of Tennis, how you can stop wasting 10 years of inefficient repetition with 1 year of really accelerated mastery of the game. So go to the link, click it, get the book, and get the programs. It's going to be great. You're going to really change how you approach tennis. It's the ethosschooloftennis.com.